Table of contents.
The Netherlands. Part 1.
Dr. Sydney Soclof. Dr. Sydney at earthlink.net. 2020.
About one half of the Netherlands, or Holland, was once covered by the sea or by lakes and swamps.
By the arduous building of dikes and draining the water, the Dutch people reclaimed a large part of Holland from the sea.
Although it is one of the smallest countries in Europe, the Kingdom of the Netherlands played an important role in the history of the continent.
At one time, it was a great sea power and a trade rival of England on the oceans of the world. The Dutch established colonies on several continents.
Today the Netherlands is no longer a great colonial power, but it still plays a significant role in European affairs.
And its location makes it a major gateway to Europe for sea, land, and air traffic.
The Netherlands, often referred to as Holland, is officially called the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Dutch Nederland or Koninkrijk der Nederlanden.
Actually, Holland is the name of just a part of the Netherlands. It was originally one province, but is now split up into two provinces.
The two provinces are North Holland, or Noord-Holland, and South Holland, or Zuid-Holland. Amsterdam is in Noord-Holland.
Most of the early explorers and merchants were from the province of Holland, and it was because of this that the entire country is often referred to as Holland by the English-speaking world.
The word Netherlands comes from the two words Netherlands. The word nether is an Old English word meaning lying below the earth's surface, as in the expression netherworld.
The word beneath also has as its root the word nether.
The word Holland comes from hollow land. The word hollow is an English word meaning depressed below the surrounding surface.
As often used to describe the isolated valleys in Appalachia, or hollers in the local hillbilly dialect. Holland is one of the lowest parts of the Netherlands.
The language of the Netherlands is called Nederlands, but is often referred to as Dutch.
The word Dutch refers to the people and language of the Netherlands, although it is a misnomer because it comes from the word Deutsch referring to Germans.
Its usage may have come about because the two languages bear some similarity, and because the two countries are adjacent.
Another confusing thing is that the Pennsylvania Dutch are not Dutch at all. They are actually Deutsch, having come originally from Germany.
The language of the Netherlands is the language on the continent of Europe that is the most closely related to English. Here are the numbers 1 through 5 in various languages.
And here are the numbers 5 through 10. We see that Netherlands is closely related to both English and German, somewhat in between the two.
The Low Countries are collectively the three small countries of the Netherlands: Belgium and Luxembourg, and also known as the Benelux countries.
As the name implies, this area is generally very low and flat land.
However, most of Belgium, especially the southern part in the Ardennes, is not at a low elevation at all.
And Luxembourg is actually very hilly and even mountainous.
In French, the Netherlands is called Pays Bas, meaning low country, but here the term refers to the Netherlands.
The land area of the Netherlands is just a little bit larger than the state of Maryland.
Distances are short. No place in the Netherlands is more than about 125 miles or 200 kilometers from Amsterdam.
The capital of the Netherlands is Amsterdam, but the seat of government is just a short distance away in The Hague, or in Dutch, Den Haag.
About half of the Netherlands is below sea level.
Much of the Netherlands consists of reclaimed land. This is the result of a long process of careful water management dating back to medieval times.
Along the coasts, land was reclaimed from the North Sea, and in the interior, lakes and marshes were drained.
All of this new land was turned into polders, usually surrounded by dikes.
As the water is pumped out of the polder, new land is formed,
And the water is carried off in the ditches and canals.
Initially, manpower and horsepower were used to drain the land, but they were later replaced by windmills.
In the 20th century, steam pumps and later, electric and diesel pumps came into use.
If the Netherlands were to lose the protection of its dunes and dikes, the most densely populated part of the country would be inundated, largely by the sea, but also in part by the rivers.
The most highly developed part of the Netherlands is not more than about 3 feet, or 1 meter, above sea level.
And this covers more than half the total area of the country, including the two largest cities of Amsterdam and Rotterdam.
This low-lying area includes Amsterdam, The Hague, and Rotterdam.
The population density in this region is so high that this region is almost one continuous urban area.
The Rhine River starts in the mountains of Switzerland and ends its 1,000-mile journey in the Netherlands by emptying out into the North Sea near Rotterdam.
Actually, the Rhine splits up into several distributaries when it reaches the Netherlands. Principally, the Waal, the Lek, and the Ijssel.
The Rhine flows north through Germany and then enters the Netherlands. Much of the Netherlands is actually the delta of the Rhine River. The river deposits sediments as it slows down in the flatlands of the Netherlands.
The Ijssel flows northward to the Ijselmeer. The Lek and Waal flow parallel to one another, and are connected by side streams and canals, and enter the North Sea, just west of Rotterdam.
The Maas rises in France, where it is called the Meuse, and flows through Belgium to enter the Netherlands, at its most southerly point. It then flows northward and then westward parallel to, and close to the Waal and the Lek to enter the North Sea.
The Zuiderzee was originally an estuary of the Rhine. By natural action it then became a shallow sea, biting deep into the land, and eventually it was hollowed into an almost circular shape by the action of winds and tides.
The word Zuiderzee means South Sea in contrast to the much larger North Sea to which it was connected.
Many of you are familiar with the Hans Brinker children's stories having to do with the Zuiderzee. Well, the Zuiderzee is gone. It's nowhere to be seen.
What happened to the Zuiderzee?
In 1920 work was begun on the Zuiderzee project, of which the Ijselmeer Dam or Afluitsdijk, begun in 1927, was a part.
This 19-mile, or 31 kilometers dam, or dike, running northeastward to connect the provinces of Noord-Holland and Friesland, was completed in 1932 to finally seal off the Zuiderzee from the North Sea.
With the closing of the Afluitsdijk, the saltwater Zuiderzee became a freshwater lake called the Ijselmeer or Ijssel Lake.
The Afluitsdijk also serves as a bridge or causeway across the water from North Holland to Friesland.
In the Ijselmeer, or Ijssel Lake, formed from the southern part of the Zuiderzee, 4 large polders were constructed around a freshwater basin fed by the Ijssel and other rivers and linked with the sea by sluices and locks in the barrier dam. The largest polder, Flevoland, is the newest province of the Netherlands.
The Delta Plan.
Along the west coast of the Netherlands, there are a number of arms of the North Sea that penetrate deep inland.
In the southwest part of the Netherlands, the disastrous gales in spring tide of February 1, 1953, flooded 400,000 acres of land and killed 1,800 people. This accelerated the implementation of the massive Delta Plan, which closed the sea to the Netherlands region of the southwestern delta, mostly in the province of Zeeland.
The Delta project was completed in 1997 and was designed to shorten the coastline by 450 miles, or 726 kilometers.
The largest of these dams, crossing the 5-mile-wide East Schelde Oosterschelde estuary, is in the form of a storm surge barrier incorporating 61 openings that can be closed in the event of flood. The barrier is normally open, allowing saltwater to enter the estuary and about 75% of the tidal movement to be maintained.
The Netherlands has a population of 16 million. This is to be compared to the United States with a population of 300 million and the United Kingdom with a population of 60 million.
The Netherlands is quite a small country in area. Here is a comparison of the Netherlands to the United States and the United Kingdom.
The Netherlands has a very high population density of 393 people per square kilometers. This is to be compared to the United States with a population density of 30 people per square kilometers, and the United Kingdom with a population density of 246 people per square kilometers.
The Netherlands is divided into 12 provinces. Along the coast from north to south is Groningen, Friesland, Noord or North Holland, Zuid South Holland, and Zeeland.
These are the other provinces to the east. From north to south they are Drenthe, Flevoland, Overijssel, Gelderland, Utrecht, Noord-Brabant, and Limburg.
Here are the principal cities of the Netherlands. The capital cities of the provinces are shown in red.
Here is a comparison of the population of the 10 largest cities of the Netherlands.
We see that Amsterdam is the largest city, with Rotterdam a close second, and The Hague in third place.
Most of the Netherlands' population is concentrated in the urban core known as the Randstad Holland.
The population density in Randstad Holland of 1,100 per square kilometers is more than twice that of New Jersey, the U.S. state with the highest population density, at 438 per square kilometers. The average population density of the Netherlands as a whole of 390 per square kilometers is about the same as the state of Massachusetts, at 313 per square kilometers.
Extensions of the Randstad stretch toward the east toward Arnhem and Nijmegen, and to the south to Breda, Tilburg and Eindhoven. This forms the central Netherlands urban ring, where almost all of the population of the Netherlands is concentrated.
Netherlands climate.
The Netherlands has a typical maritime climate. The predominantly westerly winds bring much moisture in the form of rain. Winters are generally mild and summers cool from the influence of the sea. A common winter problem is fog. The coast is subject to strong gales that can cause considerable damage.
Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit throughout the year in Amsterdam.
Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Celsius throughout the year in Amsterdam.
Here is the average monthly rainfall in inches throughout the year in Amsterdam.
Here is the average monthly rainfall in millimeters throughout the year in Amsterdam.
The Dutch have made great contributions to European culture, in particular the Dutch-dominated European art in the 16th and 17th centuries.
Some of the earlier painters were Dutch-speaking, but lived in what is now the area of northern Belgium, known as Flanders.
The most famous Dutch painter of the early period was Hieronymus Bosch, whose work was based on themes of fantasy.
A work by Hieronymus Bosch.
Another work by Hieronymus Bosch.
In the late 16th century, painters concentrated on portraits, still lifes, and landscapes.
Frans Hals was best known for his portraits and humorous scenes.
Hals was followed by Rembrandt van Rijn, without doubt the greatest of the Dutch painters. His portraits and groups were commissioned by the rich middle class that was produced by the success of Dutch trade.
Rembrandt also painted themes from the Bible.
Johannes Vermeer, on the other hand, painted people engaged in the various activities of daily life, such as his girl reading letter at an open window,
and milkmaid.
Other painters of the 17th century include Jan Steen,
Jacob van Ruysdael,
and Ferdinand Bol.
Vincent van Gogh was born in the Netherlands and later went to France, where he painted under the influence of the French Impressionists.
One of Van Gogh's most famous paintings is The Potato Eaters.
The Netherlands has one of the world's greatest concert halls, the Amsterdam Concertgebouw.
900 concerts per year take place in the Concertgebouw, for a public of over 800,000. Making it the second most visited concert hall in the world.
Although Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany, he was of Dutch ancestry, a fact that may be noted from the characteristic Dutch van in his name.
Dutch architecture is notable. Church architecture flourished in the Middle Ages and several churches date from this period. In the 17th century, Dutch architects designed palaces and country and town houses.
One of the major features is the use of large ornamental gables. Later periods in Dutch architecture were more influenced by foreign styles.
Dutch industry is dominated by three large firms. Philips, located in Eindhoven, produces electrical and electronic goods, including televisions, radios, and computers. Some Philips products are sold in the United States under the name Norelco.
Unilever makes synthetic fibers, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals.
Petroleum refining is a major industry. Royal Dutch Shell is a major international oil and natural gas producer.
The main international airport of the Netherlands is Schiphol near Amsterdam.
Schiphol is actually below sea level, and the name is thought to come from Ship Hollow, because of the remains of ships found there.
Schiphol is the headquarters of the Royal Dutch Airlines, KLM, one of the major airlines of the world.
With its flat terrain and generally mild climate, the country is well suited for the use of the bicycle. Cycling is a sport, a form of recreation, and a method of transportation.
Many people go to work or to school by bicycle, and there is a very extensive network of bicycle paths all over the country.
Agriculture still provides a number of products, many of which are exported. More than half of the farmed area is under grass and is used for grazing or hay, growing to feed dairy cows.
Butter and cheese are exported, and Edam and Gouda cheese are known around the world.
Tulips are a favorite flower of the Netherlands.
Tulip fields abound almost everywhere.
Flower bulbs, especially tulips, are an important export.
Broodjes are simply sandwiches, and they're big in the Netherlands. Filled with all manner of edibles, roast beef, roast pork, various sausages, liver, croqueting or croquettes, herring, smoked eel, almost anything, really. But the most basic of Dutch broodjes is the broodje with cheese.
Fishing is one of the traditional activities of the Dutch, who are major exporters of fish. The Dutch themselves eat much salted and pickled herring.
A very brief history of the Netherlands. In 1270, a protective dam was built where the Amstel River joins the Zuiderzee, and Amsterdam was born. In 1300, Amsterdam was granted its town charter and developed into an important center of trade. In the Middle Ages, the Low Countries, now known as Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg, were divided into small states, duchies and counties. Each was separately ruled and constantly at war with its neighbors.
In the 15th century, Amsterdam was destroyed by fire and it took 4 years to rebuild. The use of straw and wood as building materials were thereafter prohibited.
In 1515, the Habsburg Emperor Charles V became ruler of Holland, and as a result Holland became a Spanish possession. In 1578, the troops of William of Orange drove the Spanish out of Amsterdam.
The Habsburg Emperor Charles V became King of Spain in 1516. As a result, Holland became a Spanish possession.
In 1556, the Habsburg Emperor Charles V abdicated, and Philip II of Spain became ruler of a vast kingdom that included the Netherlands.
In 1568, William I, Prince of Orange, led the fight that drove the Spaniards out of the region.
In 1579, the Protestant states formed the Union of Utrecht and declared themselves independent in 1581.
In 1581, William of Orange became the first hereditary stadtholder of the United Provinces, or Dutch Netherlands. And in 1609 the United Provinces forced Spain to sign a truce that recognized their independence.
In 1602, the East Indies Trading Company was established for trade with Asia.
In 1621, the West Indies Trading Company was established for trade with the Americas.
The Dutch established a vast trading empire. This is the Dutch trading empire in 1650.
The 17th century was the golden century, with Amsterdam being the most important trading city in the world as well as a major cultural center.
In 1642, Rembrandt painted the Night Watch.
By around 1650, Amsterdam became the largest city in the Netherlands with 200,000 inhabitants.
The English and Dutch competed fiercely over trade routes and colonies. This resulted in a series of 4 wars called the Anglo-Dutch Wars in the period 1652 to 1674, and then 1781 to 1810. These were mostly battles at sea.
During the Napoleonic Wars of 1800 to 1812, France occupied the Netherlands and imposed a continental blockade against England, and Amsterdam's economic power waned. By 1813, Amsterdam remained the capital city, but the seat of government was transferred to The Hague.
In 1830, the southern provinces rebelled and set up the new Kingdom of Belgium.
During World War I, the Dutch succeeded in remaining neutral.
During World War II, the Germans invaded the Netherlands on May 10, 1940.
Amsterdam was occupied by German troops from 1940 to 1945.
Rotterdam city center and more than 1/3 of the port's facilities were destroyed by the German bombing. The City Hall, 1918, the main post office, 1923, and the stock exchange were among the few public buildings that escaped destruction.
The Netherlands surrendered 5 days later. The royal family and the cabinet escaped and set up a government in London.
Amsterdam was liberated by the Allies in 1945.
The Amsterdam Rhine Canal was opened in 1952 from Amsterdam to the Vaal River, a distributary of the Rhine.
The Amsterdam Rhine Canal has a total length of 72 kilometers, or 45 miles, and contains 4 locks. It was enlarged in the 1970s and reopened in 1981. It is the most heavily used canal in Western Europe.
In the 1960s, Amsterdam became the Mecca for the hippie movement. And in the 1970s, the liberal drugs policy led to an influx of drug users from all over the world. There were violent struggles in the 1980s by squatters, called crackers, against real estate speculators.
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam is in the province of North Holland and is located on the Ijselmeer by the I River, or Het I, and was at one time the largest seaport in the Netherlands.
Ships sailing out of the harbor, through the Zuiderzee, and out into the North Sea in order to conduct lucrative trade across the vast oceans made Amsterdam a great commercial and financial center.
With the closing of the Zuiderzee by the Dike, Amsterdam no longer had direct access to the North Sea in that direction. However, the North Sea Canal connects Amsterdam to the North Sea and allows Amsterdam to remain a major seaport.
Amsterdam is the principal commercial and financial center of the Netherlands. According to the Dutch constitution, Amsterdam is the capital of the Netherlands, although the parliament and the Dutch government have been situated in The Hague since 1588, along with the Supreme Court and the Council of State.
The population of Amsterdam is 730,000 in the city, and 1 million in the metropolitan area.
Many canals go through the central part of Amsterdam.
Here is Amsterdam showing the extensive harbor area. The location of the center of town is shown by the Dam Square in the Centraal Station.
Here is the I River as it passes through Amsterdam.
Here are the canals in the center of Amsterdam.
Here is the Amstel River, after which Amsterdam gets its name.
And also the beer, Amstel beer, gets its name as well.
Amsterdam is famous for its canals, countless bridges, and stately old houses.
Amsterdam is known as the Venice of the North and actually has more canals than Venice.
The city was designed in such a way that some 63 miles, or 101 kilometers of canals lace the inner city, so that one is never more than a few blocks from the nearest waterway.
The canals form a series of concentric rings, with the Amsterdam Centraal Station being near the center.
Amsterdam is very flat and is about 12 feet, or 4 meters, below sea level, on the Amstel and I rivers.
Streets crowded with cars, bicycles, and pedestrians weave among the canals by means of more than 1,000 bridges.
Here are some of the many bridges.
The older buildings stand on timber piles driven into the soft earth for support. It is estimated that 5 million such piles support the old city.
An elaborate system of dams, dikes, pumps, and canals keeps the water from rushing in over the city and the surrounding countryside.
Most buildings in the central city date from the 17th and 18th centuries, when rich merchants dominated it. Brick and stone townhouses, warehouses, and churches line the canals.
There are many houseboats on the canals of Amsterdam. Table of contents.